Brilliant, thank you. Hello everyone, happy Saturday. My name is Dawn Jones. I am actually a PR person and an accidental influencer because I shared a post about my pitiful ponytail and my hair loss journey in 2022. And that was about 3 years after being in denial that I actually had hair loss and shedding and putting myself to account. And I think I didn't do it to share it, I didn't post about it to share anything other than something to myself, to make myself realise I had to do something about it. And I'm not a big Instagram person, I've got a few people that follow me, but it's by far the biggest post that's been the most shared thing and the most commented thing, and has been something that people ask me about all the time. And not just people my age, I'm 47, but also people that are younger, that are doing exams, that they're stressed. They email me about their sister, their brother, their mother, themselves. And everyone has got a story, and everyone's story is very different. And come in, no, please come in. And I asked the people that follow me on Instagram this week, I said to them, what if you had to sum up your hair loss or your shedding, or however you frame it to yourself, about how it makes you feel, what word would you use? And I'll tell you the words that some people don't understand the question. So when you say one word, they give you a sentence. But these are the main words that we got back: depressing, distressing, deflating, frightening, frustrating, embarrassing, soul destroying. I feel self-conscious. That was one that was more than one word. Anxious, shame, embarrassment, fear. And I understood all of those emotions because our identity is very much wrapped up in our hair. And this is not a vanity thing. It is a vanity thing, so we like our hair to look nice. But you don't realise until something happens that actually so much of how you feel about yourself and how you behave and how you walk and how you interact with others and how you socialise is wrapped up in what's happening on our heads. Now, I threw everything onto my head. If someone had some weird thing on TikTok that you mixed up and it stunk like a sewer and everyone would run away from you, I would put it on my head. They said that it would make my hair grow back. I spent a fortune on these ridiculous light caps. I spent a lot of money on Regain, which is Redoxonol, which is the active treatment, which we'll talk about in a sec, that can be treated for hair loss. I had treatments, I had PRP, I had facials, I had everything you could possibly imagine. It wasn't until I met Lisa, who's sitting next to me now, that I started to get on the, I don't want to say journey to recovery because it sounds like I'm an alcoholic. I am sometimes drinking too much, but I have 3 kids and one of them's a 2-year-old boy, so you have to forgive me. But it's a process, and if I had a magic wand that we could wave and solve everyone's problems, I would be on a beach somewhere and having a great old time. But there's so many good things that you can do. And being in this room, if you're having the issue yourself, which I imagine you are, because no one's coming into this room for lols. No one's like, just pop in and see what's happening in the hair loss room, if it's not an issue. But what we want to do is give you as much of advice and as much of direction as we can, that you don't waste any time, any energy, any tears, any emotions, that you don't need to get your problem solved. Right, go on, Lisa, how do they solve their problems? You just said it all, actually. No, you didn't. So Lisa is the trichologist. She's one of the lead trichologists at Philip Kingsely, which I don't know Philip Kingsely. It is probably the leading hair specialist for hair loss and scalp issues in the country. And Lisa I saw first 2 years ago, and she helped me to get my hair back on track.
You just said so many things that, and I know you've got direct questions for me, Joe, but you just said so many things about, how your confidence is kind of so linked with hair, bad hair days. Everybody's had a bad hair day when you look in the mirror, your makeup's immaculate, you've got your best frock on, but if your hair's not right, it just completely ruins your day. So that's kind of what a bad hair day is about. So I think confidence is a huge thing. And I know we've got a lot of things to get through in this next half an hour, but I would say that if hair loss is something that is in your life that you're concerned about, you don't have to accept it. There is so much that you can do for hair loss, but I totally understand Why, when you start to Google hair loss treatments, you then start to see adverts pop up on Instagram or TikTok, and everybody gets sucked into hair growth serums and magic treatments, and it costs a fortune.
Rosemary oil.
Rosemary oil. How many patients have I got on rosemary shampoo? Not prescribed by me. But what I would say is there are lots of different types of hair loss conditions, and we will go through them. But treatment for hair loss conditions has to be targeted. There is not one size fits all. If you have genetic female pattern hair loss, it doesn't matter how many gummy hair supplements you swallow, that is not the treatment for your genetic hair loss. So it's all about identifying the hair loss condition you have, getting a diagnosis, and then having the appropriate treatment. And that's what we did with you.
Exactly that. So first of all, the male and female hair loss is separate, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this is not to do with it's not a gender conversation, but the gender that you were assigned at birth is the gender that decides what type of hair loss you will, if you're unlucky like we are, have or will not have, right? It is completely different, isn't it?
When it comes to genetic hair loss, so there is male pattern hair loss and female pattern hair loss. And just to kind of divide that out, the reason we say that one is different from the other is the pattern. So if you have genetic female pattern hair loss, the pattern generally for women is we retain the front hairline, but we can start to go thin through the top area of the scalp here. And you can start to see your scalp a bit and your parting might be wider. The male pattern version of this, which is the same cause, actually looks a bit different generally. Men start to kind of thin at the temples, they recede a bit here, or they start to go thin at the crown. So the pattern is different, but the cause, the mechanism is the same. There are lots of other hair loss conditions that we can mention that both overlap men and women as well.
Yeah, but we don't care about them today.
We'll just talk about the girls.
Exactly. So with women, there are more than one, right?
Yes.
There are more than one type of hair, and this is why it's so important to identify what your type is so that then you can treat it effectively. If you self-identify, whatever the term is, self-prescribe what your hair loss situation is, then you may be hit and miss. You might get lucky and treat it because you're just lucky, or you may just find yourself getting down the wrong line.
Exactly. So, for the untrained eye, diagnosing hair loss conditions is really, really tricky, and especially because you can have more than one hair loss condition. So many patients I see in clinic haven't just got hair shedding, they've got underlying genetic hair loss as well. So when the 2 or 3 overlap, it can be very foggy and it can be very difficult to kind of work out what's going on with you. But I'll pick out some of the most common hair loss conditions that we see in clinic. So genetic hair loss is also called female pattern hair loss. And it's really, really common. I think over 65% of women post-menopause or through the menopause will experience this type of hair loss. So it's really, really high. Genetic hair loss just means you've inherited a gene that says that your hair follicles, particularly in this area we're talking about for women, are sensitive to testosterone levels in your body. And that testosterone starts over time, very slowly and subtly, to shrink the hair follicles. And it means then that when the hair follicles are smaller, the hairs that grow from them get finer and finer over the years and shorter until eventually those hair follicles are not producing a hair. And then you start to see these spaces here. So when you've got empty follicles, you can see your scalp and your parting gets wider.
So if you want to know if you have that type, just say as a starting point, do you look at your mother?
You can do, sometimes it's a very dominant gene in the family, or father, or grandfather. Sometimes I look at my patient's family history and actually there's not really much to go on, but we know that somewhere back there is a gene. But what I would say is, it is very hard to diagnose yourself, but if you look in there and you think, this is the area I'm concerned about, my hair is thin in this area, but actually the sides and the back are quite good, you retain the density here. That disparity between the top and the sides of the back is usually like your number one sign that you possibly have some female pattern hair loss.
Obviously we can't say definitely, I hate all of that watery sort of like, well, is it or isn't it? But without looking and identifying, but this is a good hypothesis.
Yeah. So that is probably the most common type.
And I didn't have that one.
No, that's not a joke.
But I thought I had that one, and I was treating it myself, which we'll talk about in a minute, for that condition. And I wasted all my money because I was looking down the wrong path.
So you were convinced that you had female pattern hair loss?
Yes!
And buying treatments for that?
Yeah, I looked at my granddad, he was bald, and I thought,
that's
why.
And it's not true that, genetic hair loss just comes from one side of the family, or it's, a lot of men say to me, well, my dad doesn't have male pattern hair loss, so it can't be that. Those genes come from everywhere, your blue eyes, the shape of your nose, your whatever, it's come from anywhere. So the second most common hair loss condition is something called telogen effluvium, which sounds a bit fancy, but it's basically excessive hair shedding. So you would know you've possibly got telogen effluvium if when you shampoo your hair or you brush it or you
Who's nodding?
yeah, you see too much hair coming out. We all should lose some hairs every day, 80 to 100 hairs a day, roughly. And don't suggest you start counting them because you get very hair aware and obsessive about it. And, oh, there's one more than there should be. But telogen effluvium is excessive hair shedding. It's an abnormal amount of hair coming out when you shampoo and you brush. There are lots of causes for telogen effluvium, and you were suffering with this as well, Joe. Yeah. Anything ranging from nutritional deficiencies, low iron levels, poor diet, insufficient calories, general health conditions like an underactive thyroid, certain medications, so contraceptive pills, certain HRTs. There are so many things which can cause telogen effluvium. The good thing about telogen effluvium is classed as a temporary hair loss condition. So once you find out what's causing it, you can fix that problem, and then your hair should come back. With female pattern hair loss, sadly, it is a progressive condition. So without treatment intervention, female pattern hair loss does kind of sneak along over time and get worse.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I had. So I had, every time I brushed my hair, which I tried to do as few as I could, the hairbrush would fill up. My shower, your bath gets, and everything was getting clogged with hair, and it's mine. And it just, even if I touched my hair, it would just, more would come. And you're like, well, surely this has got to stop at some point, but it didn't, it just kept shedding and shedding. Oh, sorry, I thought someone was asking me a question. And then and I just got really frightened about doing anything with it, and I didn't wash it enough, and I didn't do all these things, so I was worried I was going to end up with nothing. And that's when I went to see Lisa, and that's when I found out that actually I'd been treating my hair with redoxanol and all these other treatments because I've been treating pattern loss, and that's not what I had at all. Exactly.
Yeah. And if you just want me to go through,
yes, please.
Generally, if we're talking about female pattern hair loss, the number one licensed treatment for female pattern hair loss is minoxidil. Minoxidil is a topical stimulant, so you apply it to your scalp every night, and it can induce hair growth in some of those empty hair follicles.
It's the one with real proven clinicals behind it.
Oh, absolutely, it's licensed. So if you have a licensed treatment, it means A, it works, it does what it's supposed to do, so it induces hair growth, and it can help to stabilise the hair loss. We prescribe minoxidil in our clinic, but we combine it with other things. We combine it with some hormones, which not only protect the hair follicle, they stabilise the hair loss. So that actually over time the hair loss doesn't get worse. So if you feel that that's you, parting's a bit wider, your scalp's a bit more visible, the earlier you treat it, the more the chance you have of retaining the hair that you've got. So it's important that it doesn't self-correct. No, it doesn't kind of get better over time. If you can treat it quickly, you'll retain as much hair as you can.
And minoxidil, that is labelled, the patent, the ingredient at the moment is owned by Regain. Right, so Regain you'll know of because it's in boots and whatnot. Just one thing to know about Regain: don't get sucked in between the men and the women's, right? Because it is exactly the same. It is one of the most painful things that I learned from this whole process is how Regain markets to women in a different way, and they charge more for their products when they're targeted to women.
And the male product is do not use our body.
Exactly, which is
so annoying.
Nonsense, right? So I went to Lisa and I said, oh my God, what will happen? Am I going to grow a beard? And it's like, and I've got, because that's the insult to injury, isn't it? All the hair's falling off your head, but you've suddenly got hair coming out of your chin and everywhere else. It's like, oh, this is not fair. No, not at all. Don't worry. Thanks. So, Regain, if pattern hair loss is your situation, Regain is fine to start with.
It is fine to start with. If you want something more bespoke, then Philip Kingsely consultation, and we kind of hold your hand on that journey, because I think one of the things that you'd experience as well is when you are standing in the dark and going online and choosing different things, you think, oh my gosh, is this working, is that working? It really muddies the waters, and you've got nobody to hold your hand through that and say, and to monitor you. And that's the really good thing that we did together. We monitored Joe's blood tests, and we reviewed, and we took more photographs, and we reassessed the scalp. And when you do that, you've got somebody to be with you to kind of like, is it working, and what should we do next?
Yeah, and it's an up and down thing as well. There will be peaks and troughs in, the journey back to recovery. I think when I met Lisa and I knew that my problem wasn't pattern loss, it was hair shedding. And to be fair, the first thing you did was take all of my medical history. It's a really long, in-depth conversation. No one else is going to listen to you talking about your hair loss as much as she is and care about it as much as she is. And then she was able to look at my scalp really closely and to see how many did I have hair that's still growing, were the follicles still healthy, and that's then our next stage was to have a blood test then to find out if I had any hormone issue or any vitamin deficiency, because that's another thing as well that comes along a lot, isn't it? It's like, take biotin, Holland and Barrett, or go and buy this, or this gummies that you said earlier.
Yes.
But if you're not deficient in something, what's the point in supplementing for it? You're just wasting your money. So Lisa, we did that. We had the consultation, which actually I have to say was incredible. But also you can do them online now with Philip Kingsely. You don't have to, be in the room, which I just thought just gives you more access to everyone else.
Yeah.
So tell us, Jennifer, what was the things, if that sounds like something you've got, what's the process of dealing with that?
So if you see an excessive amount of hair fall, it can potentially be telogen effluvium. I think one of the important things you could do, number one, would be to go to your GP and just say, can you do some basic blood tests for me because I am shedding too much hair? And they should hopefully test things like your iron levels. Iron is the number one mineral you need to support hair growth. Lots of women, particularly childbearing age, are going to be low in iron. You were low as well. So get them to blood test your ferritin levels. Your ferritin is your storage of iron, and your ferritin levels should be close to 100 to optimise hair growth. Lots of women are wandering around with ferritin about 10 or 20, which still
mine was 20.
It still looks normal to a GP. GP said, that's fine, you're not deficient, but hair is not happy until your ferritin level is about 100. So I would say to you, ask your GP to test your iron, your ferritin, your vitamin B12, your vitamin D, your zinc, and your red cell folates. They are not unusual blood tests. They are basic routine blood tests. Your GP should not deny you those blood tests. And just make sure you don't have any deficiencies. The nutritional deficiencies are the number one cause of excessive hair shedding. So it's not always, but I'd probably say 8 times out of 10, that's what I see. I mean, if you've got an underactive thyroid, you probably know about that anyway. That's another really common cause. Let's not forget that you can have stress-induced hair loss as well. I don't think we've ever been so busy and full on and switched on to technology all the time. You never get a moment to yourself. And I think when you are running on empty, when you're running at 1,000,000 miles an hour and you don't stop for lunch, life is just hectic, those symptoms can show up in your body. So stress can show up in your body. Some people get palpitations, some people break out in acne, other people get migraines when they're stressed. Your hair's not immune to it, so your hair can suffer as well.
Yeah, definitely. So I think that it's once you, if you go to your GP and you ask these blood tests, and the GP will then give you a blood test, and this is exactly what happened to me, you'll find there's no reason your hair should be falling out. You'll find it by the end. Right? They're not going into a conversation because they don't have the money, they're not funded enough to look after that situation. But if you then bring those results to Lisa as part of your consultation, then she will be able to help you to read through them and decide actually, she said, the GP is looking for your ferritin level to be above, say to be above 20, because that means you're alive and well and healthy and your liver's functioning well. But it doesn't mean that your hair is functioning well. And that's what Lisa's job is, because to know why your hair isn't functioning.
And I think also, you really have to pay attention to diet, because as part of a consultation, I would take my patients through what do you eat in a day. And I think most of us, for the most part, don't actually realise how influential diet is on our hair. Our hair cells are our body's second fastest dividing cells. So nutritional requirements for hair cells are really high. Those hair cells are functioning 24/7 and need a lot of energy. And then your hair cells get that energy from food. The irony is your body feels or classes your hair as a non-essential tissue.
Yeah.
Your body couldn't care less whether you're growing hair or not. Your hair's a really good barometer of your general health. So if your diet's not adequate, one of the first places to see some changes can be your hair in terms of you see excessive hair shedding. So, just some top tips to make sure you can shore up your hair in terms of good diet.
Yes, go on, because I'm definitely not doing this.
Protein is number one, so you have to have protein. Meat, animal source protein gives you the best bioavailability of amino acids, but you can have enough protein from plant-based foods. Protein with every meal is important. skipping breakfast and having a cappuccino is not food, it's not breakfast. Most of my patients say to me, oh yeah, I have breakfast, have a cappuccino or a latte. That is not food. You need some actual real food for breakfast. Don't meal skip. Have something to eat about every 4 or 5 hours. So if your lunch is at 12 and dinner's not till 8, that is too long for your hair cells to go without food. You do need a healthy snack in between.
Can you drink yourself in between? Collagen thing or?
Well, I suppose there's calories in it. But it's about having.
But it's the calories you need for the energy for it to burn.
You need the calories. You need, and I would say, what's a healthy snack? A handful of nuts and dried apricots. Just think about. Yeah, there's calories and energy, but it's not the best form. So, no meal skipping, protein with every meal. Don't eliminate food groups if you're worried about your hair. Don't go on a carb-free diet. Have enough calories. If you're a big exerciser, make sure you're replacing those calories because it will all show up in your hair. It's one of the first places. Protein is important for the condition, the strength and resilience of your hair. And you need your carbohydrates to give your body the energy to make your hair grow. And I know we're going to talk briefly about supplements as well. You asked me about, I mentioned biotin earlier.
Because I was actually deficient in biotin, which
you were such a rarity.
That it's rare. And biotin is the main thing that they chuck at you in health food shops to help your hair grow back.
Yes, and biotin is important in your diet. It's important for hair growth, but you actually only use a really small amount. So you don't need to go and buy 10,000 micrograms. It's way, way too much. You can get 100 micrograms of biotin, and your biotin levels will shoot up really easily. So it is an important vitamin for hair, but you don't need tons of it. It's water soluble, so if you do take too much, you just peel it out. It's
like vitamin C, isn't it?
It is, so it will go, but you don't need to take that much. Collagen you mentioned, there isn't, the last research I read, there actually isn't any evidence to show that orally taken collagen will translate into your hair. So we don't feel it may help your skin. I'm sure there's research and studies on collagen. It's still a bit.
Yeah, and it's so expensive.
Yeah.
You just don't want to.
Because your scalp is skin, which is the same kind of skin as your face. So if you feel that collagen helps your skin, potentially it can help your scalp. Your scalp is the bedrock of hair growth, so you kind of think, okay, that's all related. We improve the scalp health, maybe the hair will be better. But at this moment in time, if you're struggling with hair loss, I wouldn't say that collagen is going to be a relative for you.
No, definitely not. And I think that's why understanding what's happening in your body is the most important thing that you can do for everything. It will tell you exactly why this is happening or what you can do to help it to stem the flow. And it might be a bit of an outlay at first from a monetary point of view, but you think of all the money and the time and the angst that you've wasted getting to this point. And particularly if it's patterned, you kind of need to get on it.
You do, and I would just say that, there's probably not a lot of menopausal women in the room here. I'm 53, I'm going through the menopause, my hair dramatically changed, I've got very fine hair anyway, dramatically changed again, going through the menopause.
Keeps on
getting. And HRT is a big conversation, and I would just say that your choice of HRT will influence your hair as well.
Oh God, we need to have that conversation.
We do.
Right. I just want to, does anyone have anything they want to ask? Yeah, because I know it's such
You mentioned full pattern hair loss,
Minoxidil,
yes, it's the first stop to stop it getting worse. Is if you did have pattern loss, can you restore what you've lost, or is it gone forever?
That's interesting because if you imagine the follicles have started to shrink over time. So what minoxidil won't do is make those follicles big again. So those hairs that will potentially grow when you introduce a topical minoxidil will probably come back fine and short, but they all contribute to looking a bit better, improving density. Not all of those follicles will produce a hair when you introduce minoxidil. Some of those hair follicles, if they've been empty for a long, long time, are going to be stubborn and not grow your hair. And not everybody, I'm glad you asked this question, not everybody actually responds to minoxidil. I'd probably say in my experience with the patients that I prescribe it to and monitor, about more than 90% of my patients will grow more hair from minoxidil, but not everybody does. Sometimes it's a bit disappointing and we don't know why, we don't know the answer to that.
There's not always, that's why science is an evolving thing, right?
Exactly.
And it changes, that's why everyone's advice is different sometimes, like year on year, because science is just constantly evolving.
And also, actually, you just reminded me to say that minoxidil is a long-term treatment. There isn't a quick fix for hair loss. There's no, well, you can use minoxidil for 3 months, hair will grow back, and you can leave it alone. It's like you take paracetamol for toothache. When you stop taking the paracetamol, the toothache's going to come back. And that's exactly, I think when you embark on minoxidil, you do have to kind of take on board that, and embrace the fact that this is for the long haul until you get to a point, you might get to a point where you think, I don't care about hair anymore. I've got other things to worry about. So if you gain more hair from using minoxidil and hair improves and you stop using it, there are lots of things on the internet and Friday things you read, like you'll go more and lose all your hair. No, you won't. You'll just lose those extra hairs that you gained and you'll lose them gradually over time.
It's a bit like when you're pregnant and your hair stops falling out of your head because it holds on to everything. And then it falls out again at the end, after you've finished breastfeeding or whatever. You're like, oh, I'm losing all my hair. And it's just losing the stuff in the cost anyway. Some people lose more, but the majority of people just lose what they have. What, you were going to ask something? Sorry.
Yes. You said if you know you are low in iron,
Yes.
and you know you need to take iron supplements, is there a gold star iron supplement to take, or is every iron supplement the same? Because there's so many out there.
There are lots on there
Yeah.
actually, yeah.
How do you know?
For my patients, I prescribe, it depends how low your iron is. I mean, when you're as low as Joe, I think I recommended you Ferrogred C,
Yeah, Ferrogred.
but it's a really high strength iron, and some people don't tolerate iron, it can upset the stomach. But I would always say, if you're taking an iron supplement, you should have a regular blood test. You do have to monitor it. If you get toxic levels of iron in your body, that's really not a good thing. So you shouldn't take iron forever.
Yeah.
If you suspected your iron was low, you could go to Holland & Barrett. I like Solgar as a brand. They do something called gentle iron, 20 milligrams. It's a little bit more than just an off the shelf, and that could help to maintain your iron levels. And I would say if you're childbearing age and having periods, iron, you're probably going to need a bit of iron.
You should be taking an iron supplement. But my daughter is 14. She's been having periods for a couple of years now. She takes very light iron.
I mean, if you don't eat red meat, then that's a main source of iron. Then potentially your iron levels can be low. Menopausal women, postmenopausal women, you're not having periods anymore. In my experience, doing blood tests on women my age, we rarely have really low iron levels because you then start to store your iron up because you're not having periods anymore.
And Ferrograd C that Lisa mentioned, I just got from the chemist. You just order it from your chemist. It's like £4 for a month's supplies. And it's really important to have vitamin C with it because that helps it to absorb into your stomach, and you don't get like constipation and like heart stones, which you can get with iron.
What about when you drink iron? Is that the same, or should that?
As in a liquid
Yeah,
iron supplement.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Do you mean Spartone?
Yes.
I wouldn't bother with Spartone.
Okay.
Unless it's like, is that what you were going to ask?
No, I'm just
I was like,
Sorry.
yeah, Spartone is, this is my opinion on Spartone. Unless you have light periods every month and you don't think you have an iron issue, Spartone's fine. I think
if you have an iron issue, it's not.
It's about 5 milligrams of iron. So in context, Spartone's about 5 milligrams of iron. Solgar Gentle Iron is 20. Ferrograd C is 105. So please, if you take Ferrograd C, take it with caution. And I would recommend you take Ferrograd C unless you have a blood test.
Yeah, and you need to have a blood test because otherwise you could be in all sorts of, you're just whistling.
Like, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You mentioned about hair loss. How about hair breakage and then coffee? Does that work? Or is that just
Okay.
Stimulation.
coffee, shampoo, and
Scalp
Do
health.
you know, we've actually read some recent research that is more promising about caffeine. For a long time, we've kind of like, caffeine is stimulant, it's not going to make hair grow. Actually, we see more promising stuff about it. So I would say it's not going to be the be all and end all, but it's no harm. If it's in a shampoo, you can use it. And you're dead right to bring up the subject of hair breakage because that is hair loss as well. And just to mention, the word alopecia just means hair loss. It can be any type of hair loss. Hair loss after you've had a baby, hair loss when you've been through chemotherapy, hair loss that's stress induced. Alopecia just means hair loss.
Breakage.
Menopause brain. Yeah, absolutely. It's still hair loss, and you do have to have good hair care practices. Especially as you get older, you tend to find that your hair gets finer and drier, and you need more treatments, more moisture, less heat. You can still have good hair and good quality hair and colour it, and still bleach your hair if you treat it really well. Heat is really damaging, so you do have to use it with caution, be careful.
Yeah.
Heat is, hot flat irons are not your best friend if you're struggling with hair loss, but I understand the need to style hair and make it with that.
I think scalp health is one of the most important things. Like the scalp is as Lisa said, it's the same as the skin on your face, it's a little bit thicker, it's got hair growing out of it, obviously, hopefully it's got hair growing out. what I would do is really treat the scalp very well. I think if you've got hair problems, whether it's hair loss or shedding or breakage, you tend not to wash your hair as much as you should because you think it's going to make it worse. When actually, and Lisa's told me this, like this sort of, you know, some of these urban beauty myths, they prevail no matter what happens. Like, so it's like, you shouldn't wash your hair every day, it's so bad for you. Like, my kids are saying this to me, and they're like, on TikTok it says shouldn't wash hair every day. And I'm like, I work in beauty. And they're like, whatever, you know, and I'm like, and the reason that this exists as a myth is because we used to wash our hair in posing and crap that was a bit like that's what shampoos liquid on it. But that's what shampoos used to be like. Shampoos and hair products weren't as sophisticated as they are now. So many shampoos are now made with skincare ingredients in them. They're much more gentle, they're much more nourishing. So yes, you can wash your hair every day, and actually you should wash your hair every day, particularly if you are going to the gym or exercising, getting sweaty, going outside and there's loads of environmental pollution. Because if you put your head under a microscope and you have a look and you haven't washed your hair for 3 days, which I did recently, you'll be disgusted with yourself. It's awful.
It is awful. Just to mention, you mentioned a hair mask. If you've never tried Philip Kingsely's elasticizer,
Yes,
that is for hair breakage, it's your number one hair treatment.
What's the name of that?
It's elasticizer.
Yeah. Yeah, cool. Hi, actually, just going back to what you were talking about iron stores. I've had a bit of a hair joint myself, and I've done all of that. I've been taking. I used to take Paragraph C, and I now I take other ones off and on. But I've never been able to get my iron stores up further than like 42, 43, and it just doesn't go up further. So I wanted to ask what you do from there.
What you could do, so you could try one or two things. You can take something called L-lysine, which is that's an amino acid that helps the absorption of your iron. Are you vegetarian?
No.
Okay, so you do eat some meat.
Do
you eat red meat?
Red meat, protein.
You do, I know, yeah. You do everything, I know.
I just can't get it past that.
Sometimes what you can find is your body gets used to taking in so much iron and it basically shuts the gates. It's like, this is too much every day, 105 milligrams of iron, I'm not taking any more. I get my patients to take it on alternate days.
So that's what I used to do. So right in the beginning, I mean, my journey's been going back like 20 years. I was literally, they've never seen the fertility level so low. I used to take it every day, got up to like the 43. Now I take it maybe once a week and it's still the same.
And it's still the same.
Like it's never like, it's not really going down, but it's not going up further. I know I need to get to the 70 and 100.
Exactly.
And I just can't.
Try a lysine, that might be something that's going to help you. And you should take iron in the morning on an empty stomach.
Exactly.
Don't take any milk with it, because milk will inhibit the absorption.
So no coffee with milk.
Yeah, exactly. So I space it out.
Great, okay. Well, you're doing all the right things. Maybe a lysine might be the magic bullet for you. Other than that, that's good, but it's more tricky. If you're having heavy periods, it's like, oh God, you're topping your iron up with Paragraph-C, and then you're losing it at the end of the month, and then you're back. So you kind of in a bit.
So when you get to the menopause, your hair's going to be amazing.
Did you have a question? I've got a question, but what's the point?
L-lysine, so it's
L, so the letter L, and then a separate word, lysine, Lysine.
And you can get that from Caddy.
Yeah. It's an amino acid, so it's found in meat. So it helps with protein.
Okay. I have two questions. One is, what do you think about the treating the head, the roller on the head?
Micro like
Scalp, yeah.
I personally,
follicles that might not,
there's trauma though.
I was just going to say, I'm personally not a fan because you are traumatizing and causing damage to the scalp. For me, it's not a treatment plan that I would go to. I would say, well, if you're shedding too much hair, have some blood tests done. If you feel you've got genetic female hair loss, you probably need minoxidil. So for me, I would always say things like that, and it's probably the same question about laser, PRP. They're all assisted treatments to something else. I wouldn't treat them as a standalone treatment. I would say actually genetic hair loss, look at minoxidil, and maybe you could add in microdermabrasion or what do they call it? Dermarolling.
I just think, I think if you really take the time to really give your scalp a really good massage and scrub and really give it that, and then feed it with a really good, like an elasticizer, like Philip Kingsely, which you put on, I just put it on and leave it on overnight because it's pre-treatment, isn't it?
Pre-shampoo,
then I wash it off and then wash and shampoo my hair. But even if you just take that time to stimulate the scalp, like most people just shut their shampoo on, rub it on, and then that's it. But really get in there, and then you can feel the scalp like tingling, like not in a bad way, but just like it feels stimulated. Then that will help.
With steam as well, does that help?
Yeah, steam. Yeah, exactly. And I think steam's definitely great for your hair type as well, because it's gentle. And the good thing with heated appliances as well is that there's a lot with air in them now that are coming through, and they're going to be a lot cheaper. I know this just because of my work. They're going to be a lot cheaper. The one, you know, like a Dyson Airwrap, right? It's all well and good, but it's £400. You know, I think that's like, I've got a lot of issues with them for a while. But there are, I've seen through the Boots reviews that there are others that are coming through from other companies that are a fraction of the price of that, and they're all based on air and not damaging hair, straighteners, hair dryers, whatever. So there is other alternatives coming very soon that are going to be able to look after your hair without, and so because you want to be able to do, you know, straighten it and do all of those things. But I think just really getting in there, giving your hair the time off, you know, so it doesn't always have to be heat treated, you know, thinking of different things. I play a lot with things like hair ties and bows. I don't give a toss that I'm 47, do you know what I mean? I will, because it sort of hides everything, makes it look a little bit more fun and whatever, and just be, you know, just be a bit more playful with it. I've dyed it blue, and just like with wash in, wash out stuff. But I just think that unless people don't realise like how emotional it takes so much out of you, that whether it's breakage, whether it's, you know, hair loss or pattern baldness or whatever, it's a big issue and it has a big emotional impact on women. Probably does for men as well, I'm sure, but we don't care. Yeah.
What are your thoughts on the hydrofacial for the scalp? Interesting.
I just like, I'm really, at least with this, I feel, don't bother, it's a complete waste of money. Wash your hair at home. There's a steam bar. Do you know there's a hair steam clinic here launching soon? That's interesting. Philip Kingsely also got like an amazing like treatment that you can go and have that will kickstart your scalp and hair onto the right journey. Go and have that. Don't go for a hydrofacial. Look, hydrofacial is actually going to do much for the skin, to be honest. Like, just don't look for a magic formula. The formula is find out what the problem is from someone like Lisa and then treat it accordingly, rather than just thinking, like, we get dragged down these holes of like, this is the new thing, this is the latest thing, make rice water at home, do this, do that. Oh, this rice water works, and they know it works because there was women who lived in Hawaii and they make rice every day and it's made their hands really soft and smooth and their hair really long, and you're like, it's probably because they're out in the sun all day, they've got plenty of vitamin D and they don't have any predisposition and no stress, so they're fine. I'll go and live in Tahiti, I'm sure my hair would look much nicer. Yes.
Can you use all?
Yes, all hair types. The only thing with minoxidil is you do have to wash your hair more regularly. So if you've got a hair type where you only want to wash your hair once a week, so obviously afro-textured hair might not be shampooed. It's not good to shampoo it every day, certainly not, maybe even just once a week. So with minoxidil, some people can experience scalp conditions if they're not shampooing pretty frequently, so that is just something to take care of.
Yeah. But it's like my friend Dean needs it, but she won't take it because she's like, it makes my hair crazy. I'm like, well, Carol,
You go. I also have two questions, but I'll start with the non-scientific one. Different products, so like, you know, your high street brands versus your salon brands. Is it a gimmick? You know, do we just need to cleanse the hair and a bit, you know, kind of like skincare? You don't have to get really fancy cleansers.
Yes,
And the hair is the same thing. So,
I mean, yes, all shampoos will clean your hair, but I will, you know, I work for Philip Kingsely and I have for 20 years. We use you can get protein that's cheap and you can get protein that's more expensive and you get better quality. We use the highest grade ingredients in our shampoos. Even your shampoo will make a big difference to your hair quality, your hair condition, your hair shine. But what I would say is, you know, if you use a high street shampoo and you absolutely love the way your hair looks and feels, fine, stay with it. But if you look at it and think, oh my god, my hair's rubbish today, and I feel like I've got conditioner left in my hair, my shampoo's not suiting me, go for something a bit more, you know, another step up, and you probably find it. It's a bit better. Think of it like wine, right? You can get cheap wine and you can get expensive wine, and they don't cost the same amount to produce. The ingredients in them, one's going to give you a massive hangover and the other might not. You know, it's like the same with hair care. Like, there's a margin. Like, it's not like an expensive shampoo is the same
as a cheap shampoo, but it's just more packaging and it looks different.
Yeah, I'm thinking like creme de la mer versus, you know.
Exactly.
I mean, you don't have to spend hundreds of pounds
Yeah,
on shampoo,
yeah,
I will
yeah.
tell you that.
And there are hygiene shampoos that you can go, and like, I think L'Oreal Vive is a great brand. Like, I think it's really good, and if it works for you, then it's great. But sometimes, especially if you have a hair issue, like with breakage and stuff like that, it's nice to treat yourself to something that feels luxurious and feels like you're doing something really. And lots of these things have claims behind them that will make your hair 10 times wrong. They cannot say that if it isn't proven to do that.
I find the more expensive it is, the less you need to use.
Exactly, it's more
Yes,
concentrated. The formula is more concentrated. It's just that, yeah.
But it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to actually.
It's not going to make your hair grow back.
No.
I've tried expensive. And
But I think it's what Lisa said.
brittle.
When you find the thing that works for you, stick with it.
Yeah.
There's not a magic formula, and everyone's different. But when you find the thing, stick with it.
What's that now?
I'll come.
Do you
I'll
want to say
definitely
it?
answer your
Then we'll
question. Nioxin, I mean, it's a hair brand. They've got shampoos, they've got conditioners, they've got other treats. I've not looked at that range for a long time. But what I would say is, you know, it's a professional brand. If you use it and you like it, stick with it. If you love it, stick with it. It's not for everybody. Philip Kingsely is not for everybody. Well, most people that use it get really
Yeah, I
good
think
results.
as well. I think there's a reason that you guys are good at what you do. But the medoxinol spray, nioxin, if you're going to buy one thing, I would buy this scalp spray. No, it's like a spray and it's got a little nozzle on it and you just put it on your scalp. But I only put it, when I've used it, I've only put it on the areas, I don't put it all over my head. The same for medoxinol, I just put it on the areas that you need it.
Sorry, yeah.
I have a question about two products. One is, what do you think about shower filters? And the other one is, what do you think about high frequency combs for the scalp as well?
So shower filters is that to kind of get rid of the hard water.
Yeah.
I mean, basically, you know, hard water just makes your hair brittle and a bit dull. So if you can have softer water, if it works, if the shower attachment works, absolutely go for it. It's going to be nicer for your skin and your hair. The other one was
The high frequency combs?
High
I've seen
frequency.
them like for
I think the jury's still out. It's a bit sketchy in terms of, you know, results and things. So again, assisted treatment alongside a primary treatment. So there's no harm in doing it alongside something else. But I think you'd have very minimal results if you just use something like that.
Yeah, I bought one of those Hello Clean shower things.
Yeah,
And I was like, I didn't notice any difference.
Their marketing campaign.
I know,
Yes,
so-
everybody's Instagram.
Yeah. We've actually one more, I think.
Yeah,
They kicked it, well, we're supposed to be kicked out ages ago, sorry.
And so now that you have done this journey and you've got everything sorted, you know exactly what's going on, are you still doing any other treatments that you think is really helping?
What, for my hair?
Yeah.
Well,
Like
it's a
PRP
bit,
or something
it's
like that.
such a difficult thing to say because with me, and this is why everyone's is so personal, because the reason that I was losing my hair, which I didn't realise as well, was because I was perimenopausal, my hormones were on the floor and my iron was on the floor and all of these things. And I had a baby at 45 that I was surprised I still can't believe that. And so then I went straight into menopause. So and that's why we are women are so chemical and so hormonal, and everything about us is based on what's happening with our hormones and our cycles. So the more that you can find out about what's going on with your cycle and like really trying to understand like how you react to different things at different times is what's really going to help you manage any symptoms that you have with your hair, your skin, your mood, anything. So I think it's difficult because now I'm on HRT, so it's a different conversation, but I'm going back to see Lisa because my hair is growing back again, but I'm worried about the quality of it, and I just want to make sure that I maintain. And by no means, the one thing I would love to be able to do is take my hair out and go, ta-da! But I'm not there yet, but I know I will be. And once you know you're on the right path, you feel instantly better, even though it's going to take a while for your hair to get where you want it to be. At least psychologically, you feel like you're not just like, you know, throwing hope at the wall.
Just ask a quick question there. Talking about that hair loss, I had a situation a few years ago where I went to receive the Ellery in Hammersmith.
Oh, when you have those hair extensions,
I had the insurance system,
no.
and they said on the contract, unfortunately, there may be some hair loss. I asked about that, and they hand you over the champagne. And it said, oh, you know, just like normal hair loss. And you have to go every 4 weeks and have this thing adjusted.
Yes.
And after 18 months, I said to the girls, I think I'm going to have this taken off. And they just looked at each other in the mirror. And I said, what's wrong? And they said, nothing, I have to take it off now. And I was bored. Yeah, completely bored. And that was a few years ago. It was in 2013. So it's my hair. I've always had not great hair, but it's never grown back to even that standard. So in that situation where it's not general hair loss, and that's completely, they've taken the hair away, will it ever, am I stuck with this, or could I, are there things I could do now that might help it even now?
So your hair may have recovered to a degree from the hair weave that was in,
Yeah.
but there may be something different going on as well now, so there may be hormones at play. But what I would say is, the problem with those interlaced systems is you neglect your scalp because you can't get to your scalp.
Yeah.
So neglecting scalp health is detrimental to hair growth as well. So if you can avoid that type of thing, I would say, do. But it may be that we could help because there may be something else going on.
Yeah.
Go and see Lisa, that would be my advice.
Yeah. Our clinical director always says you don't wait until all the teeth have fallen out before you go to the dentist.
No, it's true. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you.